Ooh, hey, what is up? I guess it hasn't been that long, but how's it going? So here we are, the day before the big premiere, which is finally tomorrow. Hey, how's it going? That guy fatal, excuse me. So yeah, here to break it down. I guess sort of kind of getting back into the swing of things after a 7 week hiatus almost now. So pretty kind of surreal, I'd say, that we're finally getting back into it. It was definitely you know it was funny. I was kind of after the mid-season finale. I was very, took a long time to come down from that, crazy mid-season finale, scene with Howard Hamlin. It took a couple of days to come down, and then of course, kind of waiting throughout the 7 week break, kind of seeing what sort of teasers would come out, wondering if we'd maybe get an entire trailer. We didn't get an entire trailer. I'm not too surprised. They're definitely playing it pretty close to the vest, which is kind of ironic because they also screened this entire episode at Tribeca a few weeks ago. So it's either you get to see the entire episode early or you get to see nothing at all. So yeah, just kind of, I guess I'm going to try my best to sort of put the puzzle pieces together here. I don't even know if that's really possible. A lot of sort of mystery and intrigue here, but at the same time, I know there's a lot of YouTube channels out there that already knows what happens, before we see the episode tomorrow night at 9 p.m. So, it's right here on this tweet tomorrow. So again, it's kind of interesting here, this motif that we've seen of the six Cinnabons in the box and one progressively being eaten every single day. Again, definitely a callback to Gene Takovic, who we have yet to see as of season 6 of Better Call Saul, the premiere. And you do wonder, though, again, it's not confirmed, but just all of these sort of teasers that we've got leading into this new episode, a lot of them have been surrounding around Gene Takovic. I do wonder if, finally we're going to see this, flash forward, I suppose, scene to the Gene Takovic timeline that we've yet to see so far. So again, I don't know. If you went to Tribeca, you already do know, but you would imagine that, we're going to see this flash forward. But at the same time, it's kind of interesting because a couple of days ago, as I think I can find somewhere here. But yeah, as this sort of sorry, not used to drinking, carbonated water instead of still water. I better get back to that, just normal tap water. But anyway, if we sort of look at this teaser here that was released, we saw a couple of black and white shots to some various scenes throughout the course of Better Call Saul. But of course, the big payoff here in this one teaser is the very last scene where we hear, Saul Goodman say this infamous quotation, let justice be done, though the heavens fall. And of course, this is a callback to what Charles McGill said to Howard Hamlin in season 3 of A Better Call Saul in the episode entitled Chicanery, where he's sort of talking about, you don't have to testify, we don't have to put you through the ringer here with your condition. And of course, Chuck saying to Howard, you don't care about my condition, you just care about protecting the reputation of HHM's firm. Of course, Howard Hamlin saying, we lost another client. This whole sort of ordeal of Charles McGill's sort of very public, diagnosis now of his hypersensitivity electromagnetism is affecting the reputation of HHM. And of course, Charles says to Howard, my brother broke the law. We can't just stand back and do nothing. Let justice be done, though the heavens fall. We have to pursue Jimmy here. We have to go after his law license because it's the right thing to do. Come what may, damn the consequences. And boy, were there some pretty damn consequences for those two characters who have already met their demise, as of the mid-season finale of season 6 of Better Call Saul. So, hey, how's it going, everyone? I agree, Alex Wolf. I want Bill Burr as well. How's it going, Chris Cineros? But again, sort of getting back into this, we also see this shot here of Saul Goodman in this unbelievable, Venetian-style home with his just colorful assortment of ties here. We see him with this sort of, again, I don't even know what you would call this sort of design, this sort of Greek, sort of gold sort of design here, checking out a shirt he's going to wear, I guess checking out an ensemble. I guess we remember when his house was being repoed in the episode entitled Wine and Roses. We we saw behind this room was some bulletproof vests and some other sort of secret stuff here. So again, it's going to be really cool to see Saul Goodman in this home for the first time ever. And again, is it going to happen? Yeah, at JMNMS, yeah, Great Gatsby, I definitely get that vibe as well for sure. But again, are we going to see this scene in this very next episode? Again, I'm not really sure. I mean, I feel like, of course, we're eventually going to see this scene, but is it going to be in the mid-season premiere? I'm not really sure. In the same way as that, we've seen a lot of teasers to Gene Takovic, but does that necessarily mean we're going to see, both of these scenes? We're going to see a flash forward to, the Gene Takovic timeline in episode 8, and we're going to see a sort of a, flash forward to the Saul Goodman timeline in Breaking Bad, because we know this scene takes place very far in the future from the end of the mid-season finale where Howard Hamlin gets shot in the head by Lalo Salamanca in Jimmy and Kim's apartment. You would imagine this house isn't even built yet. And it's not like, Saul's going to be moving in there right after this conversation with Lalo Salamanca. So this scene takes place well in the future. And again, I've talked about it a little bit in some of my past live streams about how Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul sort of manipulates time. And if we ever do see a flash forward or a flashback, it's usually in the very beginning of an episode, with the exception of the episode entitled Rabid Dog, where we saw that very sort of unique manipulation of time where following Jesse attempting to burn down Walter White's house, I believe in the episode entitled Confessions, we then sort of see Walter White go into his home at the very beginning of that episode. But Jesse's nowhere to be found, but again, we then see the sort of flashback to that scene, I believe, in scene 1 of Act 3. So again, I'm not really sure what sort of time manipulations we're going to see. It's still pretty crazy to think that we are still in the year 2004, and, Saul Goodman didn't meet Walter White until 2008, so more than 4 years in the future still, so pretty crazy, just all the sort of puzzle pieces here I guess we're trying to put together heading into tomorrow's episode in just over 24 hours from now. At Chris Cisneros, that'd be pretty cool. We saw that sort of multiple month, about 3 month sort of time-lapse montage scene, the Crystal Blue Persuasion, where Walter White was sort of setting up his meth empire and making that $80 million and partnering with Declan. Again, you wonder how it's going to be done. Again, in major flash forwards such as that scene and Gliding Overall, in addition to the flash forward, which was about, I believe, 9 months, 8 to 9 months, if I'm not mistaken, in the episode entitled Something Stupid. It was definitely done in a time-lapse montage scene. So, again, you would imagine that we'd have to see something like that. It's possible, I suppose. At FIFA Boy, what can point and shoot mean? The title of 608, by the way, again, it's a great question. I'm not really sure. At Paul Sura, thank you so much for the super chat, man. I really appreciate it. Hey, Anton, what should everyone watching do the second hint? Thumbs up. Oh, man, thank you so much, Paul Sura. I really appreciate the support, man. Thank you so much. And yeah, as Paul Sura said, who's much better at promoting my channel than I do, I really appreciate the thumbs up. That really helps the channel, apparently. So, at Kate Valentine, thank you so much for the super chat as well. Love your show, Anton. In Breaking Bad Season 3, Episode 4, Walt tells Saul that his wife is in love with another man. To this, Saul says, hey, we've all been there. My second wife was screwing my stepdad. I think the writers will connect these dots. Again, a very interesting question for sure. You're talking about, I believe, it was the episode after IFT. I forgot which the name of that episode was. I know which one you're talking about. It's when Walt confronts Ted Beneke, and of course, after he gets thrown out of the office because Mike bugged Mike bugged Walt's house on behalf of Saul after the conversation that they had when he visited him at the Beachcomber Apartments. He said we might have a wife problem, and he sort of justified bugging the house because he was worried that his wife would go to the police. And of course, Mike knows that he's going to be there, and that's where he knows, where to find him at Ted Beneke's, office. Okay, that's sort of the backstory. But the point you're trying to make, Kate Valentine, is are they going to address the sort of two wives that Saul Goodman has had prior to Kim Wexler? Because we now know, as a result of the episode entitled JMM in Season 5 of Better Call Saul, that, Kim Wexler is Saul's third wife, and of course his first wife, at least we think it's his first wife, was the wife that he mentioned to the senior citizens in the episode entitled Marco, with the Chicago Sunroof story about how, Chet was a real asshole. He may have slept with my wife before she became my ex-wife. And of course the scene you're referring to is when I believe he said, I caught my second ex-wife screwing my stepdad. And actually, I saw your comment on my last community post as well, and I was thinking about what you said. And to tell you the truth, I'm just sort of thinking that they're going to just sort of chalk this up as throwaway dialogue for sure. And actually, if we take a look at the Saul Goodman's ID that we saw in that episode where he got married to Kim Wexler and JMM, I believe he was born in 1960, which makes him, I think, 43 years old because he was born, I think, after he was born. I guess I could look it up. I believe he was born in October, if I'm not mistaken, or November, and it's currently in June in a Better Call Saul. So he's 43 years old. So the point I'm trying to get at is I guess it's possible that Saul got married twice, when he was very young, maybe in his 20s. It's definitely possible, young men sometimes get married twice. I guess it's not too hard to think about, in my opinion, that Saul maybe got married twice to sort of, very, let's say, interesting Women November at J Ladybug. Thank you so much. That's the day where Francesca's supposed to make that phone call. That's right. And again, at the time, it absolutely was just throwaway dialogue. Saul Goodman was the comic relief to cut through the very dark nature of Walter White's premise in the plot of Breaking Bad. But at the same time, I don't believe a stepdad is ever mentioned for Jimmy McGill, if I'm not mistaken, over the course of Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. We know about his father who ran the corner store in Cicero, who was the straight arrow, couldn't see sin, as Charles McGill said. Again, we saw that scene with Jimmy McGill's mom in the hospital, I believe, at the end of season 2 of Better Call Saul, in the flash sort of back scene when we after Chuck hit his head in the previous episode. I believe that was in the episode entitled, I believe, Click, if I'm not mistaken. And so again, the stepdad, again, it's sort of throwaway dialogue. I guess it's theoretically possible. I guess I don't know if we have to know every single piece of Saul Goodman's backstory in respect to his intricate family details. Again, it doesn't seem sort of too out of the realm of possibility that, he was married twice in his 20s when he was still in Cicero. Very possible. Two women may have made quite the impression on him in Cicero, Illinois, and he was the type of person who just couldn't be alone in his early 20s and got married twice and got divorced twice. So it's definitely possible, and also very possible that after Jimmy's father passed, as we heard Chuck say to Kim Wexler, I believe in season 2 of Better Call Saul, if I'm not mistaken, when he was talking about his father in Cicero, Illinois, that maybe his mom sort of got involved with another man who also had questionable morals, so much so that he ended up sleeping with Saul Goodman's second wife. So definitely possible. I think it's definitely in the realm of possibility. It would be really cool to see at Kate Valentine. It's definitely possible to sort of set up this very intricate sort of backstory, and I don't think we have too much sort of backstory that we'd have to rely on in respect to continuity. Maybe, I know they won't do this, but maybe they'll dress it in Slip and Jimmy. Boy, would that be pretty hilarious for a kid's show. So, again, I at this point, I just think it's going to be sort of throwaway dialogue. And who knows, I guess it's technically possible, but I just feel like it'd be pretty intricate to set up every single little piece of that backstory for sure. And thank you again so much for the super chat at Kate Valentine. It's a pretty interesting point you bring up for sure. How's it going, Nathan Kelly? I'm doing all right. Thanks so much for asking. Appreciate you for tuning in. Yeah, Chris Cineros at the same time, there's that whole sort of theory that Walt is sort of, Saul is sort of embellishing sometimes to sort of like you said, a comfort Walt, or sort of, I guess, for lack of a better term, sort of manipulate him in the sort of thinking or acting in a way that benefits Saul. It's definitely sort of possible. So, I've heard a lot of people sort of justify the various pieces of throwaway dialogue that were definitely just comic relief in Breaking Bad, with this now completely sort of different backstory in a Better Call Saul, which is just unthinkable to think about when we were, first seeing Saul Goodman as this just sort of, very shady, crass lawyer. But of course, we couldn't even surmise the very sort of intricate and nuanced backstory that he went through, which involves, of course, him being involved with a woman named Kim Wexler, and then going through this sort of very almost, I mean, I don't want to say juvenile, but juvenile yet very complex and intricate sort of plot to undermine Howard Hamlin to speed up a Sandpiper Crossing settlement, which inadvertently leads to his death because of sort of Saul's extracurriculars supporting cartel members. And despite all of that sort of just unbelievable sort of turmoil and just sort of, tragedy, despite all of that, we're going to eventually lead to this scene right here, of Saul Goodman in this very intricate home, acting in the manner that he does to Walter White in the plot of Breaking Bad, having sex with prostitutes, saying these very sort of crass lines to Walter White about, how there are other fish in the sea. You just be amazed at what's out there. Thailand, Czech Republic, those women are so grateful to even be here. Very sort of, interesting sort of dialogue in the context of what we know about his relationship with Kim Wexler in hindsight. So, yeah, at Nathan Kelly, yeah, I absolutely know no Tribeca spoilers. I mean, I've tried my best. I know absolutely nothing about what happens tomorrow. Absolutely nothing whatsoever. I've avoided the spoilers completely for almost 7 weeks now, leading up to this premiere in about 24 hours from now. So yeah, I'm definitely trying to avoid those spoilers. So at FIFA Boy, yeah, it's an interesting point. You bring up that Kawadi story about Gus sort of keeping the Kawadi and torturing him. Again, I've heard the sort of potential comparisons to that, being Lalo Salamanca's ultimate fate. Again, I'm not too sure about that, but to tell you the truth, I definitely have been sort of thinking about the sort of what Lalo Salamanca's death is going to look like on screen, and just how, like I've talked about, how it's so inconceivable that he even can die, with him just being able to avoid death over the course of Better Call Saul in so many various sort of crazy ways so far. I imagine that his death is going to be quite dramatic, to say the least. I mean, I just sort of think back to deaths of these sort of villains over the course of Breaking Bad, like sort of Jack Welker, who was, shot in the face by Walter White. That was a pretty dramatic death. Or his lieutenant, his second in command, Kenny, who was sort of, going up and down on that massage chair, just drenched in blood after being shot by the M60. A very sort of gruesome death. I think back to the death of Tortuga, being put on the tortoise and then blown up. I don't know if I categorize him in the same sort of class of villain as Jack and Kenny, but I would imagine that just whatever Lalo's fate is, FIFA Boy, I feel like the seemingly necessary death of his character is going to be quite dramatic to see on screen. I just feel like I don't know how exactly they're going to present it, but I imagine it's going to be quite dramatic, and it's going to just sort of make you sit on the edge of your seats and just say, wow. That's, of course, if he dies at all. I've talked about all the potential ways that, maybe he doesn't die. But again, the sort of Occam's razor, I just feel like he needs to die just based on everything we know from the plot of Breaking Bad. So that's a great point at Chris Cineros. There are no good guys in the show anymore. And I definitely agree. I was sort of thinking about it this weekend, sort of heading into the premiere of, the mid-season premiere, episode 608. And I was really just thinking about how, despite how much we sort of rooted for maybe Jimmy and Kim at various points of this series, I really just don't see them to be very redeemable characters after what they did to Howard. That's just my, humble opinion heading into the next episode. But it's just crazy to see how, it's hard to root for them. It's really hard to root for those characters after what they did to Howard Hamlin. So it is kind of crazy. You don't really know who to root for. All of these characters, they all have their flaws. It's just an unbelievable sort of, premise by, the creators of this universe, where you have these very sort of, sympathizable characters that, sort of, when you see them, you really empathize with them, and you understand the sort of, morally ambiguous actions they're taking because of, the circumstances they're in. But it's crazy that just over the course of the series, with characters like Walt and Jesse and, Jimmy and Kim, your sort of sympathy for them really wanes as the story progresses. And, Walter White being the ultimate example, where you understand the sort of bad hand he was dealt, and all the action just sort of makes sense based on his predicament. But just, the sympathy, it's just so subtle, the sort of the lack of sympathy, the dissipation and the diminishment of the sympathy for a character like Walter White is so gradual, you hardly even notice it until you just realize you're not really sympathizing with this character anymore. So, again, one of the reasons why I love this universe and these two shows. So just unbelievable writing. it's not really the sort of 80s movie with the good versus evil. It's so just morally ambiguous with all these characters. So I've loved to see it unfold so far, and I'm really going to enjoy these next 6 and final episodes. Yeah, at Nathan Kelly and at Coach Beer. I've gone back and I've listened to that line in the that one teaser you're talking about with Jeff the cab driver. And it definitely sounds like Jesse Pinkman. It does. The trailer where people were saying Mike's line sounded like Walt, I listened to that about 10, 15 times, and it did not sound like Walt. But this one here where he says, say it, that sounds like Jesse Pinkman. I'll admit it. That definitely sounds like Jesse Pinkman for sure. So I have to agree. At Hugo M, thank you so much for the super chat. Hi, 2 questions. How long will Lalo Jimmy Kim's scene be in your opinion? 2, will season 6B start with the Gene storyline? Again, I talked about I'll answer your questions in reverse. I talked about your second question a little bit at the beginning about how based on all the teasers that we've seen of these black and white scenes of Gene Takovic and the very unfortunate to be appeared to be recast cab driver Jeff. In addition to, these scenes of someone here eating the Cinnabon, which is a new scene that we've never seen before, sort of intertwined with all of the sort of Gene Takovic scenes over the course of 5 seasons of Better Call Saul, you would imagine that it would start with the Gene storyline. But again, I'm not really sure. I've assumed it will be based on all these teasers, but it's definitely possible it doesn't. I mean, like I said, I talked about it a little earlier. At the same time, we saw this scene here teased to us prior to 608, but again, I'm not sure if this is going to be in the very next episode because it clearly takes place well ahead in the timeline compared to where we are right now. Again, we don't know exactly when, but again, I'm not sure. It's possible, but maybe they're sort of throwing us for a loop. In regards to your second question of how long will the Lalo Jimmy Kim scene be in your opinion, that's a great question. Again, we've seen a lot of these sort of upcoming scenes where you think there's going to be way more to it, but then the story moves much, much quicker. I even go back to the premiere of season 6 of Better Call Saul, Wine and Roses, with the scene of Lalo's body double, where that scene progressed very quickly. But at the same time, you would imagine this scene is going to be quite a lot of on-screen time. Again, I don't know how much. Maybe an entire scene, maybe akin to like Ozymandias, where I believe the whole first act basically it was just one long act of Hank's death, if I'm not mistaken. So could we see something like that? It's possible. I would imagine it'll be quite long. Again, there's that one sort of scene that was teased of Lalo Salamanca appearing to say to someone, now what to do with you? Is he talking to Kim Wexler? Again, I talked about this on a couple of previous streams, or one previous live stream, where, on the episode of Talking Saul after the mid-season finale, Bob Odenkirk sort of gave a shout-out to Patrick Fabian's body double for having to lay on the ground because, they weren't going to make Patrick Fabian lie on the ground when he had no lines. But we have to remember, you would imagine just, that scene took very, like hours and hours to film, and in the names of good continuity, very ironic with Jeff the cab driver, but that's neither here nor there. You need to have a dead Howard Hamlin lying on the floor. And actually, come to think of it, at Hugo M, I was actually thinking back to the movie No Country for Old Men, where, Anton Chigurh kills, Woody Harrelson's character. Again, I don't know the film too well. I don't even know his character's name off the top of my head of Woody Harrelson's character. But there's that great scene where he kills him in the hotel room with the, the gun with the shotgun with a silencer. And after he kills him and he starts to, bleed out, Anton Chigurh very, coyly and very, subtly and calmly picks up his legs or picks up his feet to avoid blood getting on his shoes. So you do wonder what sort of Lalo Salamanca's actions are going to be. If it's going to be sort of akin to Anton Chigurh there, where, I can imagine him sort of maybe sitting down on the couch, with Howard Hamlin just being on the floor, maybe picking up his feet, trying to not get blood on his shoes. So again, it's a great question. I would imagine it's going to, who knows? Maybe they'll throw us for a loop and it'll only be one scene in one act or something to that effect. But you definitely know that scene is going to take place. They're not going to sort of skip over that conversation like they skipped over the conversation with Casper and Lalo. So, again, a great question that, will be answered definitively in a little more than 24 hours from now. And thank you again so much for the super chat at Hugo M. Yeah, at FIFA Boy, I agree. I know there really are. There are very few main characters, and very few sort of good protagonists. Like I talked about, all sort of very morally ambiguous characters. So oh man, that FIFA boy, Jeff is Howard's son. I mean, maybe with the recast now they look so much younger. I see what you did there. Well played. At Blaze Cord Oba. I mean, they're slipping Jimmy, and I mean, I don't know about another spinoff. We'll see. I mean, as people talked about, I mean, Better Call Saul came more or less right after Breaking Bad, and I believe the spinoff was announced while Breaking Bad was still on the air, if I'm not mistaken. I may have to go back and check my history there. But again, Vince Gilligan. I mean, I feel like he's deserved a sort of maybe well-deserved break from this universe. I mean, there is Slip and Jimmy. I mean, I'm just kidding. I mean, maybe I'll watch that at some point. Probably not. But again, I'm not sure what happens after this. After this story, maybe we get a movie akin to El Camino, the El Camino version of Better Call Saul. But again, we'll first have to see how this series ends before we can even think about that. So. Yeah, add Brian. Yeah, I've talked about that too, about how despite Lalo's death seems very necessary, maybe he goes out like Anton Chigurh where it's more ambiguous. He doesn't die, but he doesn't win. I've talked about that in a couple past live streams as well. Again, there's a lot of nuance there. I don't know if I want to rehash like all of that with sort of Gus Fring's dialogue and sort of, based on everything that we know about, basically Saul's thought process in the desert when Walt and Jesse kidnap him, what Gus says to Hector and Casa Tranquila in the episode entitled Crawl Space. So a lot of nuance there. Again, he seemingly has to die, and like I said, Occam's razor kind of makes it think like he will absolutely die, and the death will be very dramatic, and it'll be this unbelievable sort of on-screen culmination. But at the same time, maybe it's more ambiguous, and maybe he doesn't meet his demise. So, I mean, we'll see. I mean, to sort of maybe not get too conspiratorial here, but I do remember at Brian that I think Tony Dalton was interviewed on the red carpet about how like now I got to find a job, basically saying he's unemployed after the show, and maybe he's saying that because his character died and he's never coming back, as opposed to his character surviving and maybe theoretically he'd come back again. I don't know about that. I'm sort of getting, I think, way too conspiratorial there, but again, we'll see. I don't think he has to die for sure. I think he likely will, but I don't know. Yeah, at FIFA Boy, true. I mean, again, there's just so much, back. I feel like again, there's a whole spin-off there with Gus Fring's backstory. It definitely exists. It's definitely possible. I mean, maybe they can hold out hope that in maybe 5, 10 years from now, deep fake technology like they use in The Irishman is a tenth of what it costs right now, and it won't cost like $100 million plus to make a spin-off where Giancarlo Esposito was de-aged. But again, there's no way. I think there's so much there. There's so much sort of open-ended dialogue from Gus Fring's past in Chile. There's no way to address it in 6 episodes, you would think. I mean, there is a whole potential spin-off there. I mean, maybe they'll just sort of leave it ambiguous when all is said and done. So, at Will K. Anton, who is your favorite character in Breaking Bad universe? I mean, if you're including Better Call Saul, I'd probably have to wait until the Better Call Saul is over until I make the decision. But yeah, at AB, yeah, the de aging wasn't the best. I talked about that in my previous stream about how there's people on YouTube who can do it better. So it is what it is. Or the show was made too soon, I guess. I mean, maybe if this universe was created 20 years down the line when the technology is cheaper, maybe things would be better, but who knows? We can only speculate, so. Hey, Dave B, I hope they show Hugh leaving that house. I see what you're saying there. I believe that was in Tahajali. And again, yeah, we never saw that, but it was just absolutely implied that, of course, Hugh wasn't going to stay there forever. It's absolutely implied that he got out of that house eventually. So, again, it's like just the nature of the show. I don't know if we have to see every single, little sort of detail. I guess in many ways you'd like to, but, it's definitely not possible with there just being so much sort of open-ended backstory of all these characters. So, yes, at ZZZ, do you think Kubi will appear? I am still holding out hope for sure. So, at Fat Swiss NT, thank you so much for the super chat. Lalo's going to die in this episode. Take it to the bank. His impact on Jimmy and Kim is realized. There's a lot more they need to cover now. I mean, I don't know. I guess it's possible. I suppose. I'm not really sure. I mean, the title is point and shoot. I mean, there's a sort of definitely a double meaning on that as well. With in the same way with plan and execution. Again, it's possible. I mean, the whole episode is out there, so I guess someone already knows that that's the case. But, yeah, I'm very curious to see what happens with Lalo for sure. I mean, at the same time, we have to remember there's that whole sort of other sort of subplot with Mike and Gus, sort of preparing for sort of preparing for Lalo's attack. But of course, he sort of gave them bad information on purpose in the sewer, and then went after Jimmy and Kim. Clearly has some sort of plan for Jimmy and Kim for sure. Again, I can only speculate. I've been thinking about it for 7 weeks. I still have no idea. So yeah, I mean, that would be quite something if Lalo went down in 608, and then we just have 5 more episodes left with 3 of the main characters dying. Again, I don't know about that. I'm not really sure. I mean, I don't know what else you sort of cover after that. I mean, it's possible. So, but I mean, I can't wait to see tomorrow for sure. And thank you so much for the support, Fat Swiss and T. I really appreciate it. And I mean, talk about keeping me close to the vest. I mean, quite the sort of teaser description here for the next episode, point and shoot. An unexpected visitor forces Jimmy and Kim to face the consequences of their action. I wonder who that unexpected visitor could be. It could be anybody. No, I'm just kidding. It's definitely sort of not giving it away. I definitely looked to. I don't believe there are no photos. I believe no official photos that were teased for this upcoming episode. Like I said, they either gave away the whole episode to some people, or they showed people almost nothing. So yeah, at FIFA Boy, I've seen Fun and Games for 609. I've seen that as well. I think I've seen that one for 609 for sure. So and again, like I've talked about in a couple of my past live streams, still pretty damn surreal to think about just the fact that despite everything that happens, that will happen with that conversation with Lalo, Saul, and Kim, Saul's going to become the person he is. Again, I've talked about it a lot. I still can't wrap my mind around it. It's still sort of crazy to think about. It's so sort of hard to put that sort of puzzle piece together about how, despite him just being absolutely appeared to be overcome with just shock of what happened in Kim's apartment at the end of 607. Yeah, forgive and forget. Yeah, at Nitro Rift, I guess. Like he said to, like Mike said to Saul in the episode, or Jimmy, yeah, Saul, aka Jimmy, in Bad Choice Road. One day you go about your business, brush your teeth, eat your breakfast, and you're gonna realize you hadn't thought about it, any of it. And that's the point you realize you can forget. So again, you do wonder what happens with someone like Kim, though. After this, if she's the type of person to say, whatever, let's move on. Nothing can be done to change what just happened. we can try to save our own skin and live our lives. But you wonder if it's really sort of good. We're going to see the sort of climax of Kim's moral compass seemingly come to a head in the premiere tomorrow, the midseason premiere tomorrow. So really sort of interesting to see that for sure. So. At Tim Omen, thank you so much for the super chat. I really appreciate it. I'd like to know what Saul is wanted for, since it's never revealed to us. Everyone who could implicate him is dead or in hiding. Again, I mean, they talked about that a little bit on American Greed, where the DEA appears to raid his office after he already fled. And I believe, there's probably some very sort of, I think he's sort of dead to rights, sort of guilty on a couple of things. I mean, the money laundering for sure, I believe that's a sort of felony. I mean, things like mail fraud is a felony. I mean, they get people for that, I feel like maybe there's some sort of paper trail somewhere. I mean, people go to jail for that, like all the sort of, again, I'm no expert here when it comes to the mob law, but just the sort of racketeering and sort of all this sort of illegal stuff that he did. So I feel like, while maybe there's no smoking gun of him, doing some sort of violent action, I feel like there has to be some sort of paper trail. I mean, they shredded everything, but at the same time, the DEA still showed up to his office, and Saul knew they would show up to his office. He knew he had to run. I mean, a sort of an innocent. If as you're insinuating that, Saul is sort of, there's nothing they could get him for. Why would he run if he knew that he wasn't going to be implicated in any way and he wouldn't go to prison? Why would he run? So there's definitely something. I mean, even Saul realizes that, despite the sort of ass covering, for lack of a better term, and me shredding as much evidence as I possibly can, I'm way too close to the drug kingpin here, who was involved in the death of two DEA agents, as he said to Walter White in the basement of, Ed's vacuum cleaner repair store. There's two DEA agents missing, presumed dead. Do you think the feds are just going to let that go because you decide to hit the ejector seat? I mean, like I said, if they can't get Walt, they're going to go after Skyler. If they can't get Skyler, they're going to go after Walt's attorney. I mean, so I feel like, again, I would imagine, like I said, the money laundering, mail fraud, racketeering, all sorts of things, I feel like you could absolutely go to prison for, even if he's not going to go for like murder or something to that effect. So I really feel like, an innocent man doesn't run like that. Just like the head of Madrigal said about Peter Schuler, an innocent man doesn't kill himself. So really appreciate the super chat though. But yeah, I'm really kind of curious to see, maybe we'll get that whole sort of American Greed documentary at Tim Omen. That'd be pretty amazing to see. And it was pretty kind of funny. I saw like the comments on Reddit saying how it was kind of hindsight how Howard Hamlin wasn't featured in the documentary, because when it was being made in 2010 or whatever, Howard Hamlin had already been dead for 6 years. So pretty crazy. And definitely a very interesting component, like this sort of poster here that I talked about, this $5 million reward, sort of how Jeff sort of factors into this, the fact that it looks like, as we can see right here, this is a corkboard in Albuquerque. So really sort of interesting component of the storyline that you mentioned, Tin Omen, and really can't wait to see what happens. At Chris Cineros, thank you so much for the super chat. I predict the vet guy will get murdered. That's pretty interesting. That'd be pretty damn dark for sure, again, with him, wanting to get out of the game, and at the same time, him loving taking care of animals, and he sells his book and get murdered. Again, that's another pretty dark death akin to Howard Hamlin for sure, at Chris Cineros. So that'd be pretty damn dark for sure if we saw that. I guess it's possible, his sort of, I definitely like how they just sort of, made it, it's absolutely implied and, described to us that Saul is going to get that book from the vet, so we don't have to see how he gets every single contact. We know he just sort of gets the book, so, that sort of aspect of the storyline is sort of wrapped up. But if they kill Caldera, damn, that would be dark, man. And I really appreciate the super chat for sure, Chris Cineros. Thank you so much for the support on this channel. At Coach Beer, thank you so much for the super chat. I like the number $6.08. Great number there for sure. But thank you so much. No matter what happens to Lalo in the final 6, do you think him coming back from the dead? Lets them explain Jimmy's Lalo line in Breaking Bad? I'm not sure what you really mean there. Do you think him coming back from the dead lets them explain Jimmy's... Oh, so the fact that, oh, I think I see what you're saying here. So the fact that Mike told Saul Jimmy, or AKA Jimmy, that Lalo was dead, but now he's sort of come back from the dead, if that's what you're implying, does that sort of explain Jimmy's Lalo line in Breaking Bad? I mean, yeah, I've definitely thought about that, about how even like because of the sort of the very sort of all the sort of nuance to Lalo's seemingly necessary death with Gus Fring's involvement and Mike's involvement, and with Mike being a very close character with someone like Saul Goodman, where if Lalo dies, Mike is gonna be in the know, and he still knows Saul very well, and Saul's gonna be always pestering him. So I thought about that for sure, where if Lalo dies and Mike tells him the second time Lalo Salamanca is dead, he's absolutely dead, maybe Saul doesn't believe it. I definitely think that's possible. I've seen a lot of people sort of surmise that theory, if that's what you're sort of alluding to at Coach Beer. So I definitely think that could definitely be a component of that dialogue where even though, Lalo seemingly has to die and Mike will know about it, and Mike is very close to Saul, and Saul will want to know for sure that Lalo is dead, and he'll be very afraid of Lalo as he was afraid in that desert. Sort of no matter what you tell him, he maybe won't believe it because he was told one time and it wasn't true. So yeah, if that's what you're sort of alluding to, I definitely think that could be the sort of the crux of explaining that dialogue that he said to Walt and Jesse in the desert in season 2 of Breaking Bad in the episode entitled Better Call Saul. And yeah, for sure, I think that's possible. And again, thank you so much for that super chat. Really like that. Really like that number for sure. I see what you did there. There's quite some interesting Lalo Salamanca theories here. Again, technically all possible, I suppose. I mean, I can't. Christy Esposito kills Lalo, as Rodolfo Flores says. I mean, maybe thinking pretty outside the box there, but yeah, add Will K though, returning to Germany one last time. Maybe again. I mean, I don't know if this is technically a spoiler though, but like I'll just sort of dance around this. Like I definitely thought like Kai was going to be in season 6 of Better Call Saul. I'll put it that way. There was definitely some sort of images floating out there of not of any sort of scene, but of some sort of behind the scenes stuff that made me think Kai would be in the episode or in the season, and he's yet to be, and he's seemingly still in Germany. So maybe he goes back to Germany in some capacity. I'm not really sure. Add Will K, but who knows? Definitely a lot of Lalo theories floating out here in the comment section for sure. At CA, I appreciate it, man. Thank you so much. Yeah, a lot of people saying the sort of, Lalo gets buried in the lab. I've heard that theory. That I mean, it definitely seems plausible. Again, with the whole premise of the fact we know the lab gets built when Walter White goes there in season 3 of Breaking Bad, and he sees the lab for the first time. Again, it's not set up completely. The interior is done, but the sort of equipment is yet to be set up. We know it gets built eventually. That's no mystery. There's no suspense there. But as Gus said to Mike in season 5, the premiere of the episode entitled Magic Man, if I'm not mistaken, we cannot continue as we are as long as Lalo Salamanca is on this side of the border and until he is dealt with. And he's the one who more or less knows about this lab. And so it's just incomprehensible to think how Lalo Salamanca could be out there the entire time, just somewhere in this world, and the lab still gets built. Again, it's really hard to sort of justify this. I mean, again, maybe he's in some sort of captivity or something, or in prison maybe. I mean, it's possible for him to still be alive and for the lab to still be built, but again, it's just really sort of hard to square that circle. I mean, maybe there's just something I'm not considering whatsoever that, if I eventually see it over the course of this final 6 episodes, I'll be like, oh my goodness, it makes total sense, but, just don't know for sure. So you would imagine he just has to die because the lab gets built. That's another, very crucial component of this entire, story in this universe. So, at Justin Cruz, yeah, again, I know there's rumors floating out there about Walt and Jesse's appearance. I definitely believe that someone, again, I don't remember if it was Peter Gould or maybe Bob Odenkirk or a creator or something to that effect, said that their role was much bigger than, most people, would seem to believe. It's not going to be this sort of just brush by appearance where, it's sort of inconsequential. It's going to be very consequential. Again, how that's done, where it takes place in the timeline, again, who's to know? But yeah, very sort of interesting component. Yeah, I've definitely heard that it's going to be multiple scenes, for sure. At least that's what I've seen floating around there. I think those are just rumors. I don't think they appear in the next episode. So if they did, that would be confirmed. But I definitely think they're going to be a crucial component of the storyline. How that's the case, can't wait to see. Another sort of, an entire, again, so much, there's so few episodes, yet there's so much story to tell, and there's just so much sort of, even sort of, other things like Walt and Jesse's appearance, and even Bill Burr appearing, I mean, even Patrick Kubi appearing, hopefully, fingers crossed, so, and, just so much here that we, still will seemingly, have left to see in this, final 6 episodes of, the series. That's interesting. At SC Min, again, I apologize on the name. Lalo would need to reach some sort of deal with Gus if he survives. Again, I don't know. It'd be hard to sort of see them sort of, acting in mutual self-interest. Again, that sort of any sort of, that relationship seems pretty non-existent, and I really feel like they would, both kill each other at the first opportunity. So I feel like something's got to give. And we know that Gus Fring is going to survive until Walter White kills him at Casa Tranquila in Season 4 of Breaking Bad. So, seemingly, Lalo doesn't seem very long for this world. But, who knows? Like I said, stranger things are possible, so... At Brian, nope. Lalo and the cousins have never been in a scene together, and neither has Tuco. We've never seen any of them interact with each other besides the cousins, who, like I said, are kind of the same character, sort of. But, yeah, we've never seen a scene of Lalo and the cousins, or Lalo and Tuco, or the cousins and Tuco. We know they've all interacted with each other off screen, but we've never seen them together. And you wonder, in the same way you wonder if we're going to see Judge Papadumian before this series is over, so... At Nitro Rift. But yeah, like Gus needs a TV show. Like I said, wouldn't be opposed to it. It might have to wait for a couple of years down the line. We're definitely probably not going to get it right away, but it's definitely possible. At Mitchell Hawkins, what time it aired today? I mean, I guess it is already Monday if you're in Europe, but it airs 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, I believe. So. And I will plan on being live after that episode airs. Again, I'm not sure on the length. It'll probably be a little after 10, but can't wait to finally see it. Can't wait to finally see the episode. Can't wait to finally sort of, talk about it. And can't wait to look forward to, 5 episodes that have been seen by absolutely no one, unlike 608, which has already been seen by probably 100 plus people. So... At Freddie M, at JT about, Lalo being buried in cement in the Superlab. Yeah, I mean, again, at first I thought that was a little bit sort of, for lack of a better term, out there. But the more I think about it, like with the sort of seemingly dramatic death that needs to happen, again, I'm not too familiar with Han Solo and Carbonite, but yeah, being buried in cement somehow, it's definitely possible. So, some very sort of dark, dramatic death seems sort of necessary for a sort of just epic super villain level character that is Lalo Salamanca. So, at Colt, I wonder what family dinner with the Salamancas is like. Again, yeah, they're those nephews of Hector. Their personalities are all so different. I've talked about it, with Lalo being the sort of psychopath, the charmer who's silent but deadly, the Tuco just being the absolute sort of cold-blooded bruiser, and the sort of the cousins being the sort of very sort of ominous, mysterious sort of characters, yet also extremely violent. They're all very violent, but they come across all in very different ways. Tuco's right in your face, screaming at you. The cousins are very ominous and quiet, and Lalo, comes across as being very non-threatening. So, that's a pretty funny thing at Colt. What the family dinners with the Salamancas like? That's a great question right there. Yeah, for sure. At Brian, Gus is way too old, but again, fingers crossed for technology becoming very cheap very quickly with the de-aging. Unlikely, but we can dream, can't we? Yeah, at the same time, the other side of it at Rainy Roach, Gus doesn't need his own show. Little Mystery is good. Yeah, at the same time, you can take that position as well. Kind of leave it open to sort of fan speculation, online, even fan fiction and things to that effect. So, it's true. Sometimes, some mystery is good. There's definitely two sides to that coin for sure. I definitely think, it'd be cool to see it. And it's also very cool to sort of, have it open ended. I agree completely. Yeah, Jamie McCullough, I've talked about that too. About Gus says now the Salamanca name dies with you in season 4 of Breaking Bad in the episode entitled Crawl Space. Again, I've sort of put on my tinfoil hat where at this point Hector knows that Lalo isn't dead, but Hector doesn't know that Gus knows that Lalo isn't dead. So maybe it's possible when he says that, Gus sort of, again, it's very confusing. So, maybe Gus thinks that, or Hector thinks that Gus is saying that because Hector still thinks that Gus thinks that Lalo is dead, even though Hector knows he's alive and he's still upset because the rest of his family is dead. Again, possible. Again, almost gets too confusing. Like I said, it almost just seems more likely that Lalo's going to meet his demise just based on all of the backstory of Breaking Bad, despite, one trying to maybe sort of, saying how is it possible he doesn't die. Does it at Kevin Gossett say that Carol Burnett's in tomorrow's episode? But then again, they said Walt and Jesse were going to be in the mid-season finale, so I'd take anything with a grain of salt. So, I would, yeah, definitely, you know, I take it with a grain of salt. They do say that, Nick the henchman and Lyle and, what's Howard's wife and, uh, you know, Lydia, Lydia, Francesca is going to be in, Francesca Liddy is going to be in the next episode. So, yeah, it does say Carol Burnett is Marion and this other character, Philip Forna, is Sam. Again, not sure about who these characters Marion and Sam are. But yeah, I mean, who knows? Again, we have to take it with a grain of salt after the Walt and Jesse thing. So How's it going, Brian C? Yeah, I talked about that in a little bit in my previous stream at JT. Yeah, Carol could be Howard's mom. It's definitely possible. So, yeah, it's some cabbage. I agree. You know, again, I with after Walt and Jesse supposedly being in 607, I'm not even gonna really, it says it yes, but I don't know if we have to pay it too much heed, and we'll find out in about 24 hours from now. So. At Tomas Bossi, when will episode 8 come out? 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's a good question at Mike Ockers. I'm not sure if there's a Talking Soul tomorrow. There might be. I could definitely see it. I mean, they had it for 607, so maybe they'd have it for 608 as well. I'm not really sure. So it's possible. I haven't even looked. I guess I could look on my, my the TV guide or whatever. So. That is a good question, though. If there is one, I'll definitely. I won't watch it after the right immediately, probably, but I will. Watch it. I'll DVR it and watch it for sure. So. And at non nobis solum, thank you so much for the super sticker. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for the super chat. I really appreciate the support for this channel. Number one fan. I appreciate it, man. Thank you so much. So, yeah, at Colt less than 24 hours now. So, at Universal Basic Ramen, recasted Jeff ruins the show. Again, I think that might be a little bit too blunt of a statement. Does it diminish it in some capacity? I mean, obviously, I'd say there's an argument to be made there. And I think there was a post on Reddit where someone sort of was saying like, oh, people complaining about Jeff being recast, but at the same time sort of displaying, how characters like Mike and how characters like Gus look very different and, quite frankly, significantly aged compared to how they were in Breaking Bad. And, at the same time, I think that diminishes it a little bit as well. I mean, just a little bit. I mean, I wouldn't say it sort of, completely diminishes it, but it takes away from it a little bit, I would say. And like I said, like I appreciate the fact that they're at least trying to make the characters resemble, the characters in Breaking Bad as much as possible. Mike is wearing, lots of makeup to cover up the sort of blemishes that, come with old age. Giancarlo Esposito's hair is dyed, black because if you see his, if you see him talking on like the press circuit, he has white hair, and that would be absolutely, wouldn't be continuity in the Breaking Bad universe. So yeah, character's age, it is what it is. I mean, Todd Alquist gained 40 pounds, maybe more when we saw him in El Camino. So yeah, I mean, I would say that it does, I guess, technically take away from the continuity in the same way a sort of recast does, as we can see right here. But it is what it is. I mean, it's just the nature of television. I'm not at this point. I mean, I sort of was maybe nitpicking a little bit too much, to tell you the truth, before this sort of recast. But after this recast, I've sort of just thrown my hands up and said, it is what it is. It's like, what was the sort of point of sort of nitpicking every little thing about these characters when they're just gonna completely recast the character and even make him much younger than he was when we first saw him in season 4 and 5 of A Better Call Saul. So. It is what it is, unfortunately, but again, I don't know if it ruins the show. Does it diminish it in some capacity, potentially? Yeah, probably. But, it is what it is. I mean, say what you will. I mean, we have to remember that this was filmed during a pandemic. Like I talked about in my previous live stream, at the time, it was just unthinkable to think how life was pretty much going to get back to normal. In a year from, when it was being filmed in, 2021, they didn't know that. And, it's crazy even to see the sort of behind the scenes of this, where everyone is taking way more precautions, and you're seeing people wear masks. Where nowadays people don't really wear them as much anymore, because things are sort of getting back to normal. So again, I guess we have to sort of give them the benefit of the doubt. It is what it is. Again, we don't have an official confirmation of the recast. We don't know why this was maybe done, There's been sort of speculation out there about why it was done with the sort of actor having obligations to another show. I sort of editorialized that maybe it had something to do with COVID restrictions where I don't even know if I'm allowed to say that word, but I said it. But restrictions that were existent at the time when it was hard to go in between movie sets because you probably had to quarantine, you had to be tested, and all this stuff that we do less nowadays. I mean, it still sucks to think how Laura Fraser's not going to be in season 6 because of travel restrictions that were much more stringent than they are right now in 2021 because she couldn't travel between Scotland where she lived in the U.S. So again, it is what it is, and it definitely it probably altered the final product a little bit, but it's all part of the game, I suppose. And like I said, maybe the story will be so immersing, and it'll be just so unbelievable. I won't even notice that the Jeff is recast. Unlikely, but again, like I said, I can dream, can I? At JT, Jeff might have got plastic surgery. Yep, again, sure. I take artistic liberties there. I guess it's possible. So maybe Lalo will impersonate Howard to get into the lab somehow. I don't know about that. That's kind of I never even considered something like that. That's again, I do wonder what's going to become of Howard Hamlin's body on a more sort of you know sort of seemingly necessary aspect of the storyline. I still sort of wonder what's going to be the ultimate fate of that body. What are they going to do when when Lalo eventually leaves that apartment and a dead Howard Hamlin is on the floor? What's going to happen? With his body, what's going to happen with all of this? His cars in the parking lot, seemingly. The big blow up that happened at HHM. He's a very important lawyer. I mean, he's a very affluent, distinguished, legal professional in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and he just disappears. It's not like he's a nobody. People are going to notice that he's missing, and it's going to be quite this sort of incident that happens in the Albuquerque legal community. So again, I definitely wonder what happens to that body. I definitely wonder if sort of Mike is involved in the cleanup. Who knows? It's so hard to speculate. With less than 24 hours now, and with just how just sort of seemingly crazy that plot is. So again, I guess we'll find out in one day from now. So yeah, at Sonic 85 staging it as a suicide, definitely seen that for sure as a potential possibility. So at Cinema Dave, I like the theory. I like the theory of how he's a figment of Jimmy and Saul's paranoid mind. I don't know if that's the case. Definitely kind of seems like a recast with the dialogue being the same. But I guess it's possible. Who knows? I mean, I guess people who already saw 608, if the scene's already in, they already know. But who knows? Again, I don't know. I'm trying to think back. I mean, to like sort of real sort of I guess M Night Shyamalan esque plot twists in this universe. I don't know if any like to the level of this being a figment of Jimmy's imagination comes to mind. I mean, I sort of think back to season 1 of Breaking Bad where Jesse thinks the what are they like the Latter Day Saints missionaries are biker gang members. His sort of hallucinations that were sort of implied based on his methamphetamine use. We've sort of seen that as sort of figments of a character's imagination, I suppose, but it would be quite something if Jeff was just a figment of his imagination. Who knows? That's interesting, Coach Beer. If they recast him, why would they reshoot the scenes? I mean, I guess because they maybe wanted to, they would, they don't want to give away too many actual new scenes in the Gene Takovic timeline. Maybe, we've seen a lot of sort of scenes from over the course of the first 5 seasons of Better Call Saul being displayed to us. And if I'm not mistaken, in this first, trailer here was a compilation of all the scenes, but, it was, they needed to, show the scene that happened in season 4 as well, so therefore they had to reshoot it. So, I mean, I would imagine that's why they had to, reshoot it. So, what if Jeff hired an army of Jeffs to fool Gene? Isn't that, again, I don't know this movie too well, but isn't that kind of like The Matrix, where there was like 100 different Mr. Andersons? They all sort of looked a little bit different. I don't remember what Matrix that was. So, again, I'm not sure about all that. Again, I sort of think that the simplest explanation is likely the most logical one, where he was unfortunately recast. So, again, there was definitely some Instagram page, I think it was All About Saul, who is pretty well tuned into this sort of universe, and I believe he said that a very sort of good source said to him that it was recast because of the filming obligations of that HBO show. So it's looking more and more likely, but I mean, we'll see. So I guess there's plausible deniability until we see it unfold definitively on screen. So. Ooh, Andrea H. I believe Thomas Schnauz said it was either, I think it was 609 if I'm not mistaken. Was it 609? I believe that's what Thomas Schnauz said. He said it in a tweet. I think I said it in my last live stream, but it's slipping my mind. Probably should have stored in my long-term memory. I think it was 609 if I'm not mistaken that he had his heart attack, according to Thomas Schnauz. So I'd have to double check that, but I think it was 609. Was it 608 at ZZZ? Again, Thomas Schnauz responded to someone on Twitter. Again, I don't know if I'd even be able to find it. I mean, maybe I could, but I don't even know if I mean, because I don't have like Twitter, so I just sort of look at the public pages sometimes, but I could definitely look. I think it was 609. It was definitely somewhere in part 2 where he had his heart attack, if I'm not mistaken. So, and I think Lalo said that we kept shooting the scenes that that we could shoot that didn't involve Saul. So I don't know if that sort of implies that he doesn't die in 608, as some people have I believe, again, I believe forgot the super chat that asked or at least made the prediction that he would die in 608. So if I can find it. I don't know if I can go back that far. But yeah, I apologize. I'll definitely go back and look who that was, but so yeah, I mean, Joe Montevelo, Skyler was having an affair with Howard. That's funny. Yeah, Timothy Coombs. Well, again, another sort of, I guess, what would you call it? Sort of a more, I would guess, secondary aspect of the storyline with Badger and Skinny Pete maybe appearing. That'd be kind of cool to see. Maybe somehow involved in Jesse Pinkman's storyline. Maybe. I guess it's possible, but, we'll find out soon enough, so. But anyway, unfortunately, I'm going to have to end the stream here. Like I've talked about in, a little bit during the mid-season break, I have a lot going on in my personal life right now, my, non-YouTube life that I'm doing right now. So, got to actually do a little bit of stuff tonight right now after this stream. But yeah, really appreciate everyone for tuning in tonight. Really looking forward, really looking forward to finally seeing this episode tomorrow and talking about it. It's been 7 long weeks. Can't wait for it to finally happen. The day's already here, less than 24 hours away. So, I really appreciate everyone for tuning in. Like I said, I'll definitely be live after tomorrow, after tomorrow's episode, a little bit after 10. And again, really appreciate all the super chats and really appreciate the conversation tonight. Loved hearing all the various theories. Again, always learned something from this chat. Always definitely things I wasn't thinking of or haven't considered that I learned in this chat. So really looking forward to finally seeing, all these, potential theories, how they all play out tomorrow. So, I'll see all you guys tomorrow night if you want to tune in after the episode 608 point and shoot. And really looking forward to it. Have a great rest of your evening and the rest of your weekend if you're in the U.S. And I'll see you guys around. Thanks again for tuning in.